Hello, this is Scott Carpenter, and welcome to another edition of the Sasquatch Awareness Project. Tonight, I want to talk about something that's very, very important, but also a sensitive subject. And first off, let me say that I am not a professional counselor, and what I'm about to give is not medical advice or should be construed to be medical advice. It's only some recommendations I have from my personal experience, from the experience from others. And if you're having any issues brought on by anything, including an encounter with a Sasquatch, and you're having emotional issues, PTSD, I recommend that you seek the guidance and counseling of a professional. So, but with that being said, I want to talk about coping with a Sasquatch encounter. And, you know, the encounter may last moments, but it can be with you for many years, for the rest of your life. And it can make it a lasting impact. One that will shake you to the foundations of your belief system. It can disrupt normal activities. It can impact your relationships in your life, and basically every aspect if it's traumatic enough. And that's the thing that a lot of people forget when we're talking about a Sasquatch encounter, is the personal toll and the emotional toll and the ones around us. Because some people have an encounter and have no support because this is something that's not supposed to exist, or they're a professional and they can't talk about it, and if they try to talk about it with a family member and the family member doesn't believe them or makes fun of them, then it's like doubling down on the emotional pain and strife that's been caused by this. Now, in my opinion, I'm going to be honest, this is my opinion, I think that many state and federal agencies are very much aware of the existence of Sasquatch and other cryptids. It's not, they know they exist. They probably know tons more information about where they came from, who's created them, and who's controlling them, and where they're at and what they're doing. And I think the National Park Service has known about them for at least 50 years, at least, maybe longer. And you've got the alphabet agencies, CIA, FBI, DARPA, DOD. No doubt that they're also aware of their existence. Of course, DARPA is looking for super soldiers. That's the Defense Department of I can't remember what DARPA stands for. I could look it up, but Google it. It's the Advanced Research Project for the Army or the military. Defense Department Advanced Research Project. And, same thing with the FBI. I think DARPA is aware of it and seeks to get specimens and DNA for the Super Soldier program. And of course the FBI, kind of helps kind of cover it up along with the other agencies when events happen. So with the sorry about that, I was trying to read my notes. I know I have notes for this one. This is pretty deep. And so some things to keep in mind and think about if you've had an encounter. And basically, but you've just had, let's say you've had an encounter. Let's say you're just a normal person. You may have watched Finding Bigfoot, and you may not have. You may be aware of the existence, you may not have. Or you may have seen the shows and thought it was a novelty, and they don't really exist. Or if they do exist, I'm never going to see one. And then you have the unthinkable, the unbelievable. You have an encounter. It may last only a few seconds, but you make eye contact with this creature. You see this creature cross the road in front of you. You see this creature in the wood line. You look in your window in the evening and in a rural setting, or even a suburban setting, and you see one of these creatures looking in at you. It could be one of several things, but that little 10-second event can change your life. It can be profound, and like I said before, it just takes seconds for that to happen. Now, if you've had one of these encounters, and like I said, this is just my opinion, this is what helped me personally and has helped other people. The first thing you need to do is you got to, in your mind, and you've got to accept that the Sasquatch is a real living, breathing creature. Okay, it's real. You didn't imagine it. You didn't hallucinate it. Unless you were drinking and smoking pot. But in most circumstances, what you saw was real, and you need to come to terms with that. You need to be okay with that. It was real. You're not okay. You didn't imagine it. You weren't hallucinating. It was not a dream. I mean, these are things that first you've got to accept what's happened to you. You're not crazy. But most importantly, this was not your fault. You did not cause this encounter. Unless you were out there actively seeking them. And that's, there are some people that do that, but, and when they have the encounter, it's still devastating. But for the most part, most people who were troubled by the encounter were not seeking one out. So this is not your fault. This is not something you caused. I think talking about the encounter with a person you can trust is very, very important. And I'm hopeful that you can find someone that you can do that with. Now, if it can't be a family member, Steve Ishdahl now is doing his facts, the facts by how to hunt. And basically, you can write him an email about your encounter, and he'll read that, and he'll, and in that community, you're accepted. If you want to reach out to me, you can send me an email. Dave Pilates, I'm sure, would be more than willing to read your encounter. And so there are people you can reach out to that we might not, be able to respond and get back to you, but you can rest assured, especially with Steve Ishdahl with How to Hunt. He's going to read your encounter. It's taken seriously, like he calls it. We're all a member of the Club of No Return. And in that setting, the existence of Sasquatch is not questioned. We've already put that in the rearview mirror. We're moving forward with, we know they exist and we know they interact with people, And it's a place where you can share openly and honestly your encounter and get it off your chest. That is very therapeutic to be able to do that. You know, professional counseling. Now, like I said at the very beginning, a lot of people suffer PTSD. That's post-traumatic stress syndrome from this event. And I highly recommend you seek out a professional for help, a professional counselor. Now, if that counselor makes fun of you, you need to be upfront, tell them what happened, and so that way you can, and just ask them, you know, do you accept someone who's had an issue such as mine? And hopefully they're honest enough to tell you yes or no. And so hopefully you can get into a professional that will put aside, you know, their you know, biases and help treat you for what's happened to you. Because regardless of what they think or believe, you've had a traumatic experience, and though they might, you know, for whatever reason they may not believe it's real, they can, I believe, still treat you. Because, you know, regardless of what they think, you've still been affected by this. Also, something that I've found very helpful, it's helped me, is witness sketches. Because many times you're trying to express what you've seen, and like I said, part of that is getting it off your chest, being able to tell people what you've seen, share that with them. You know, helps, you know, helps your recovery, helps you cope, and being believed is so important because it's such a mind-blowing thing, and you know, you can barely believe it yourself. And so you want someone, you know, a trusted friend or a counselor, or even just, you know, someone who's a part of a, you know, like Steve Ishdahl, who believes you, who knows you didn't hallucinate it, and takes you seriously, and is, you know, willing to share your encounter. And it's a group of people that, you know, that can, you know, like in the comments section, you know, people, you know, trade encounters and get in contact with each other, etc., etc. So, you know, it takes some effort on your part, but there are people out there. But one of the things that really helped me, and I've talked about it before, are witness sketches. Now, I had an encounter when I was a boy, and I saw two infant Sasquatch. They ran up on the back porch, looked at me through the screen glass door while my mom was taking the garbage out. About 11:30, Johnny Carson was coming on. And it really affected me for many years and gave me nightmares. And mainly because I just didn't know what they were. And I had no reference point as a child. And then later in life, I believe it was In Search Of, or one of those other National Geographic special, where they showed a picture or a sketch. I believe it was a sketch. Yeah, it was a sketch of a mom, you know, a female Bigfoot holding an infant. And when I saw the infant looked very similar to what I'd seen, and it clicked. And so that's what I saw. And that helped relieve the nightmares, because I had something tangible now. I knew I went crazy, and I knew what I saw, and it's like, that's what I saw. But later, a lady by the name of Sibylla Irwin, who currently is still volunteering her time to do witness sketches, and I will put her a link or email here, and if you contact her, she will work with you and do a witness sketch. And she did one for me, and it was just, I'm telling you, even though, quote, I handled it and coped with it, it was you know, it was just such, you know, a release and a relief to be able to actually get it out of my mind and get it on that piece of paper where I could look at what I had encountered, and I could point at, and you know, to me that's the big thing, is you can say, this is it, this is what I saw. You know, I didn't imagine it, you know, I wasn't hallucinating, this is the creature, this is the Sasquatch, this is the whatever I saw, and right here it is. And this, 'cause she worked on it and got it just right. And it just really, it really just lifted a burden. It just made me feel so much better. And like I said, I thought I had coped with it. So I will put her link, her email in here, and I've got the sketch, and I'll throw it up here while I'm producing the video so you can see it. Hopefully, I wanted to go over reoccurring experiences. Hopefully you don't have reoccurring experiences, but in a small subset, a small percentage there are. For whatever reason, they mark a person. And what I'm talking about is a reoccurring with a person who's not has not been seeking them out, has not been wanting an encounter, or was an investigator or a researcher, someone who just had a chance encounter, and then after that had more. Whether it be every time going back in the woods and having followed, or that sort of thing. And there are some things you can do. There's the spiritual, which with the rebuking, which I've talked about many times, and you can rebuke them and keep in the name of Jesus to stay away. That puts you a bubble, about a 300 feet bubble around you. But and there's other things. One of the things that has worked for many people, Steve Ishdahl, one of them, is just talking out loud to them when you go in the woods and say, look, I'm not here, to interact with you. I don't want to interact with you. I'm here to camp, fish, hunt. Please leave me alone. I'll leave you alone. You leave me alone. Live and let live. And many people have had success with that. So, other things, that you could go armed. They seem to have the ability to sense that, and why, I'm not, I wouldn't shoot one unless it was life or death, and sometimes I wonder if a gun will have much effect, but in my experience, and experience of others, a firearm, is a deterrent. It can cause the activity or the amount of activity around you to go down. Going with other people, increasing the numbers. Instead of hiking alone, you should never hike alone, but some of us do, me included. I'm a bad boy here. But you should never hike alone. You should always go with a partner or a person. The more people you have with you, the chances of encounter go way down exponentially. I mean, two is almost non-existent. 3, 4, because it's set. It's a lot of reasons, but extra set eyes and ears, and it's just harder for them to do anything with that many people around. It's rare it happens, but if you take people with you, most of the time, you're not going to have any issues. Well, another thing I wanted to mention while I was talking about that is harassment by unknown people or organizations. And what I mean by that is, unfortunately, there's, in some instances, some people have some really unique encounters where they, and they have, they see the creature and they get a really good look at it, and they make a report to the authorities, and then there's follow-up by some sort of agent from an alphabet agency, or the quote, dreaded Men in Black. It's, it has happened, and just be aware that it could happen. Just keep it in the back of your mind. If it happens, some things you need to do is like ask for the agent's name, ask the agency this, a person is questioning you works for. So like if the Men in Black show up, ask their name. Who are you with? I want to see your credentials. Get your phone out. Take a picture of the credentials. their credentials. Take a picture of them. And listen to what your gut's telling you. And if this person's acting suspicious or threatening, makes you feel uncomfortable, call 911. Don't let them into your house. If they don't have a search warrant, do not let them into your house. And I'm not a legal expert, but legally I believe I'm on good grounds to say if they don't have a search warrant, you don't have to let them into your house. But if you go ahead and call 911 and report them. If they're legit, 911, they may or may not know about it, but get local law enforcement out there, and like I said, take pictures of the agents. Refuse to answer any questions without your attorney present. If you have any physical evidence of an encounter, hair or anything else, lots of times they're there just to say, "Oh, can we borrow this? We'll bring it back," and they disappear. My advice is don't ever give anyone physical evidence, especially those people in the suits. Again, take pictures of their vehicles, and if you can, the license plate of these officials, so you can have some recourse later on. Now, there are also, unfortunately, these Bigfoot research groups, and and I'm not going to name them. Most people that watch my channel know who they are, and so I would not, be honest with you, I would not report to them just because I don't trust them. They have been known to send people, when they find out an area that's quote hot, it's got a lot of activity, they'll send people out to investigate or research or poke around, and I know personally of more than one person that's had them without permission come onto their land or harass them in one way or another. And so I would definitely not tell any of these groups I've had an encounter. And if they did find out, maybe through a third party or however they found out, if they show up on your land at trespassing, call the police. I mean, do what necessary to protect yourself legally there. And I would call 911 on them if they're trespassing. So, real quick, and I've covered this before, but a lot of people take the proper precautions. Like Scott, 10-foot, 12-foot hairy man steps out of the woods. What are the proper precautions when I didn't do anything but walk down the trail? But, just as I mentioned before, never go in the field alone. This includes hiking, fishing, hunting, camping. The odds of an encounter drop dramatically if there's more than one person involved in that activity, outdoor activity. If you must go alone, I recommend you get a personal GPS locator. I think that's very important. Also, if you're going into an area, especially an area that you've never gone before, like lots of people will call me and say, or write me an email, say, "Hey, I'm coming to the Smoky Mountains and I'm going to these trails. There've been many encounters there. Is it safe for me to go there?" Which is a smart thing to do. But if you can't get a hold of me, and I only have a limited amount of knowledge, I know what I know, I'm familiar with the places I go. But I don't dwell, I don't check, I don't get reports, I don't take reports, I don't investigate reports. Now Matt Sieber does, and East Tennessee Bigfoot, and he's someone I recommend if you live in the East Tennessee area or coming to the Smokies, he's somebody. But that is one good thing these databases are good for, these groups that keep these reports, is that you can, if you're buying a house in an area, if you're going camping in an area, if you're going fishing in an area, you can go to the these groups and go to their encounter maps and see how if there's any encounters, any frequent encounters or a lot of encounters in that area, so you can at least be aware, hey, this area's got some high Bigfoot activity. I want to, make sure, I'm armed and I go with more than one person and these sort of things. If I'm going to camp overnight, and I have trail cameras and et cetera, et cetera, so you can be prepared. That to me, and I can list out some of those links to those databases. That way you can go check those databases out. Always have a plan B. I do. In other words, if I'm going camping, I always have more than, if I'm going camping at a campground, of course, I'm not going to worry about it. But if I'm going to camping in free camping land, where, it's kind of what I call wilderness camping, where it's first come, first serve. I always have a plan B. I always have at least 2 spots in my mind picked out. So if I go to one spot and I get creeped out, weirded out, or, there's some activity happens that makes me uncomfortable, I'll pack up and go somewhere else. Same thing with fishing. Same thing, always have a plan B with your camping, your hunting, your fishing, all of it. Have multiple locations already in your mind. So if, you have an encounter, fishing's easier because you go to a spot you're fishing and, so, let me say this, it's easy if you're in a boat or something like that because you can just move. Of course, if you're in the woods fishing from the bank, it's a little different, but, have those spots, kind of picked out in your mind. Like I said again, take a firearm. I think that's, if it's legally allowed, and you're competent with one, then please take one. So that pretty much wraps up, how to deal with a Sasquatch encounter. From the best of my best advice, and it's advice only, so it's not anything else. Just coping with the Sasquatch encounter and kind of what I would do and what I would recommend. I hope that was helpful. And again, I'll put some links here down in the comment section or in the description section of Sibylla Irwin and some of those other sites that you can go to the database for to look up sightings, to check an area out before you go. Okay, guys, I hope that was helpful. Just have a see, guys. What is it? It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday, so have a good rest of your week. God bless you, and we'll talk to you next time.